What is up, one and all? This is Pete, aka the Carrot Man, and welcome back to the Carrot Poker Podcast. As you can see, if you're watching this and not listening to this, we have a new theme that I just made in 2 seconds there to replace the old one, which I lost. But hey, I quite like it, and we're back with a whole new string of podcasts. I've got a few guests lined up this time, so we should have more podcasts in regular succession for all you guys that have been rightly hassling me to get on that ball and actually arrange some podcasts. So today, we have another one of our episodes where we like to bring someone on from another kind of profession. The way I see it is that poker is kind of in the middle between two extremes. On one hand, you have like the geek or nerd extreme, and on the other, you have like the sports people. And sometimes they come together, and there's poker. And I get students who have done like stuff on the kind of geek scene of board games and things like that, which I love. And I also get students who play sports and stuff, and it seems like they kind of meet in the middle in poker. And my friend and student Niall is on the show today, man. How you doing?
Hey man, thanks very much for having me on. Doing great.
It's a pleasure. So which of the extremes are you from?
It's fair to say I'm very much on the geek side.
Cool.
Played games forever, and hopefully we'll talk about that today.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first met you and we started working together on your game, one of the first things you told me was that you have extensive strategic background in Magic the Gathering, which was the main game that you devoted yourself to. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that and what that was like.
Sure. I got into Magic. I'm 31 now, so I got into Magic when I was 13 or 14. It's a fantasy-based strategy card game, and the kind of little nerd, little geek in me was kind of instantly pulled to that fantasy the element of it, as it were. All the art is fantasy based and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I've always been into games though. My grandmother taught me gin and things like that, and my dad taught me chess. But Magic just hit the sweet spot for me when I was 13, and it stayed with me until maybe I was 23, 24. I still play it today. It's the game I still play today when I want to drink beer and click buttons or shoot shit with my friends.
Yeah, cool. So, how seriously did you take it? Because you hear about... I remember when I got into Magic and I was sad enough to be watching the Magic World Championships on YouTube to try and learn how to be a better Magic player. I quickly gave up when I realised I had to buy cards constantly. But that's another story. So, how far did you go down that road of playing competitively?
I played the game fairly competitively. The game is played, to give maybe a listener some perspective, all the way from people playing on their kitchen tables in a game night, all the way up to the Pro Tour, or the World Championship is part of the Pro Tour, which is the highest stage of the game. To play in the Pro Tour, you have to qualify. You can't just buy in like a poker tournament.
Sure.
But only 300 people get to play in each tournament, and you have to win your seat. I won one seat once. Which it was a pretty funny story. I won my seat when I was 16, and on a team event with 2 other players, where the 2 other players in my team were absolute crushers. I got into their team on the day because some other team broke up or something like that, and they carried me through the entire tournament. I lost every match in the tournament. They carried me through until the final, where one of our crushers, unfortunately, Variance hit him in the face and he lost his match, and I got to... Variance hit me in the face the other way, and I got to win that match. And the final glory was mine. So I unfortunately didn't get to play on the Pro Tour because something happened in our team. We couldn't go. But that's as far as my Pro Tour career went. I qualified once, but I've been part of... the game is approached in teams a lot like MTT Poker is. Mm-hmm. And... I've been part of many successful teams producing, national champions and Pro Tour, deep runners to Pro Tour top 8s, that type of thing.
Oh, nice. Very exciting. So, did there come a point then when you discovered poker and it became more of a passion than Magic, or is playing Magic still like your number one thing?
No, playing poker is definitely my number one thing now. I picked up poker when I was about 22, 23 with my Magic playing buddies. We just used to get drunk and throw money at each other. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that type of pastime.
Standard way of getting into the game. I did that for years and years. We used to play 5-card draw for position in a no limit 3-handed tournament night after night, me and my two buddies. And if you won the 5-card draw, you started with 8,000. If you came second, you started with 6. And if you came third, you started with 4. That was my first experience of poker for about 3 years or something. So.
Brittle, absolutely brittle.
Yeah. It's great though. It's fun at the time.
Oh man, there's getting drunk and throwing money at my friends is still today one of my favorite things to do. It's great. There's nothing better. And we used to like do magic testing set. We call it testing in magic, where we run through strategies, test out strategies against each other in the run up to a tournament. And after those, we would get drunk and play poker. And I took it a little more seriously than everyone else, and eventually found myself online playing sit and goes. And I just ran up my bankroll from $1 sit and goes to $20 sit and goes. And then I gave it up to open a hobby game store where we sold magic cards and board games and all the games. Yeah, so me and two guys, teamed our thoughts and our money up, and we opened it up and did that for 3 years. Poker took a backseat then. But I took poker up a couple of years ago and eventually found Pete. So that's how poker came into it.
I think I want your job of like running a game store. That sounds like just the most enjoyable and relaxing. I'm sure it's not, but it just sounds like the most relaxing and enjoyable, like therapeutic, geeky thing that you could ever do.
It is fun as all hell, man. If you like money, then it's not the best thing for you. There's really no money in it. With the dawn of the internet, everyone buys games online now, and it's more of a place. It's more of a community hub. If you like being the center of a community, if you like being that type of person and reaching out to people, then it's for you. It really is.
I'm always the guy that goes into like the static games or whatnot, like in Glasgow where I live, and I'll be the guy that comes in and doesn't just like buy a game and leave. I'm the guy that'll be like, right, I have like 11 questions about these kind of games, like 11 different categories, and I want a recommendation for each of them. Like I'm that guy.
You complete nightmare.
I only go in once every 6 months, so it's like a kid in a kind of amazing once in a lifetime, like a bit like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I have to like make the most of the experience because I don't really go to the game stores that often, so I just run around like a kid.
But it does kill your love. Like, I mean, our shop focused on Magic, and it did kill Magic for me.
Right.
Unfortunately, in a way, it's really why I don't play competitive Magic anymore, because you just look at Magic cards all day, every day. And we were, at some point we sold our business, and I continued to work for a online retailer in London. And they were very nice guys. Part of my job then was just to sort through thousands of cards all the time.
Wow.
We would just buy up huge collections. And it was like you were just on the factory floor, you sort cards, and then the hatch opens at the top and more cards pile in. And you just have to sort more. And that was pretty much it, But yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun in the sense that you got to be part of this community.
Okay,
definitely.
Cool. That does sound good. So you moved on from playing Magic and obsessing about Magic to, is it fair to say that the bug of geeky obsession that we all kind of have, everyone making this podcast or listening to this podcast probably has, just transferred over and found a new kind of host in the game of poker instead?
Yeah, in a way. I have an obsessive personality. I must bug out on something. I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, you're around like 98% of all the listeners today. We all have obsessive personalities. That's why they're still listening to this, being like, "Oh my god, a Magic game store!" Like, anyway, the 2% are already gone, like watching something else.
That's it, man. That's it. When I opened the Magic game store and Magic died in my brain within about 6 months, I spent about 3 years working on my music career unsuccessfully, and did that. And then when my daughter was born a couple of years ago, I had to hang the guitars up really and concentrate on something else. And poker was the thing. And I always loved poker, but poker is now the center of my geekdom now.
Okay.
Which is great. Yeah.
Great. So you have hired me to teach you Hold'em 6 Max Cash, and that's the format that we've been working on. Would you say that you now couldn't go back to sit and goes, that cash is like the be all and end all for you, or are you still like a jack of all trades?
When I came back to poker, I started playing MTTs actually. I think what happened was, if you are in online poker, the thing that is sold to you is MTTs really, and all the streamers play MTTs, and I got into that edutainment trap, and played MTTs for about a year, got crushed, and then decided to study a lot. And my MTT's results have improved and I've got better. But at the start of 2018, I looked myself in the mirror and had that moment that I'm sure a lot of people have had and said, right, now this year's the year you crush this game, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
And I decided, right, I've been reading the Grinders Manual and I thought it was excellent. And I wanted to play 6 max cash because it's the format I can measure my results in. You know, if I put in 100,000 hands of 10NL that I'm playing at the minute and I'm losing, then something's wrong. I can't put it down to variance at that stage of the game. And I just felt at that point, you know, I grinded my way through 2NL, 5NL, and hit a little speed bump at 10NL. And I kind of thought, right, now's the time for coaching. And your philosophy and your way of communicating really kind of clicked with me. And I think that's why you're a success. And I think that's why your coaching with me has been a success so far. So that's gone really well. I'm really happy. So, but going forward in time, I can't see myself moving on to other game formats. I think 6 max cash is what I'm sticking with for now.
Yeah, it's one of the purest forms of the game as well, because it's this nice little compromise between Heads Up, which is like the most tilting adversarial battle in the world, and then something like Full Ring, which is like this wishy-washy, diluted kind of sit around and follow charts game. So 6 max is where they come together and you get like the pure intensity of Heads Up, but with like the kind of gentleness of Full Ring as well, in a way, if you guess. So I've always loved 6 max.
It's
I've never been able to play another game. I've tried everything and I will always end up coming back to 6 max cash like some horrible addict that can just never get off of it, basically. It's interesting what you were saying earlier as well about the Magic store like ripping away your enthusiasm for Magic, because people say to me, you must be the happiest guy in the world, like with your job you just talk about what you love all day every day and get paid for it. And I say, no, I talk about what I loved all day every day. Because when you talk about anything all day every day, it does get hard to stay enthusiastic and passionate. And I think like I envy like so many listeners that are actually watching this who are still at this stage where they're like, I love this game so much, I just want to eat, sleep, and breathe poker. Like, that's amazing. I remember when I was like that as well. So it sounds to me like you're very much in that phase right now, and that's a great place to be, because that's where you can make a ton of progress when you've got that raw kind of enthusiasm and drive. Not to say I hate poker now, but you know, it's great to be in that bubble, and I remember being in that bubble. So
it's strange. Poker is one of those games. To draw an analogy between poker and Magic, to get good at anything really complex, poker, chess, Magic, tennis, you name it, you're going to have to go through like a really obsessive phase. You're going to have to do that, and Magic's like that. But most people who are really good at Magic went through that phase when they were in their teens, and they kind of had the time to, right? Poker's like that too, but you have to get really good and keep beating the games. You keep having to revitalize that enthusiasm within you. You can't sit on your hands in poker.
Totally.
You can't sit. You can't say, "Well, I'm this good. The game will never catch up with me." It's not true.
Oh yeah,
you know, it really isn't.
I remember 2014 actually on that note, and being like, I just come back from Italy. I wasn't doing poker full time at this point. I'd been a pro before that, and I was like, I need a break. I went and taught English for a while. Lived in Italy for 6 months. Had a terrible internet connection, and had to come home because I needed internet, being a geek, to survive. But that aside, I remember coming back and then just feeling like this dinosaur, where I came back and I'd only been out for 6 months, and everyone was like, GTO, 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 and I'd be like, polarized range exploit, and they'd be like, no, GTO, GTO. And I'd be like, right, see, I don't understand this GTO. And I was coaching people at this point, and I was like, I don't understand the latest revolution in the game that I'm teaching. And I remember being like, wow, and spending a month just like in my study in that flat where I used to live, just basically studying GTO. And then the same thing happened when Pio came out, where everyone was like, Pio. And my students would be like, should I get Pio? And I'd be like, I don't know, because I haven't done anything with Pio yet. And I quickly had to like get Pio and lock myself in a room and study with it. And now it's like, what are they going to throw at me next? Because now I've got a solver. We now as a community understand how to use a solver to find the absolute raw truth. And then the only difference in skill is how well you can simplify, apply, and deviate from that truth to beat other people who aren't playing anything like it, which is almost everybody. So realistically, we've not moved that far away from. We've not moved that far into like poker's solved. But the point is that like only now am I kind of like, okay, I now feel like a justification for everything I'm saying and doing after spending months working with students. So you're absolutely right. If you, not even if you take your foot off the gas, but if it's not fully on the gas constantly all the time in this game, you will slip behind because there are geniuses coming up through the ranks who are solving everything. It's like being at the forefront of some kind of science, but back when we first discovered physics or something like that. It's that kind of pedestal we're on.
Do you know what it is? It's like science, except there's an immediate economic pressure on everything.
Yeah.
Right? In science, there isn't always there is economic pressure, but there's societal and social pressure, as in like grants go to like people who know people, etc. Right? Sometimes it's not perfect.
Sure.
But in poker, there's always someone trying to kill you.
Yep.
And it's like my Magic friends ask me like, do you know like in a normal computer game, there's like always an introduction to the game, and the game tries to give you a reason to stay in.
Yep.
Okay, you've learned this, but this poker's not like that. You have to climb the ladder, and everyone's trying to kill you while you do it.
Yeah. But those are some of the most addictive games. So the games where the really, really tough games where you feel like if you do succeed, you've just done something monumental.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, man.
Those are the
it's
best.
It's like Dark Souls or something. Everything's trying to kill you, but you're still playing, man. Yeah, that's it.
I was stuck in Dark Souls 1 bit. We have to fight these two gargoyles for like literally, with my character who was like had a mace and a shield, and this game was like, oh, you only have a mace and a shield? You don't have any range attacks? Too bad, you have to be in a boxing match with two massive gargoyles. Like, good luck. And I had to like find out how to like raise the ghost of some dead pirate to come and give me like a 1% better shot so that I could eventually do it on the 98th attempt, man. But that's poker in a nutshell, because that's what you have to do to succeed at poker. It's like Dark Souls or any other game like that. Check it out, anyone who doesn't know Dark Souls. Great. Bit dated now. Great game.
If you think about it this way, look, I'm playing 10NL, right? The average fish goes online after work, he puts his $50 online and he plays some 10NL. He has to play me. I've got the help of a world-class coach. I've got a community full of high-volume crushers helping me. And I've played competitive games for 15 years. It's like, good luck, fish. I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And yet, you're a guy that's toiling in the fields of poker all day, every day, just to make ends meet and like make the way through these microsticks, because that is the climate with the rake that we're having to pay and what we're having to deal with.
That's it, man. That's it.
It's crazy. And it's almost like if you'd done this at the time when you were doing the magic stuff, it would have been about 100 times easier, but at the same time, maybe not as satisfying. Like I remember playing in 2000.
Don't start. yeah, go ahead.
Not to be a total ass about it, but yeah, I mean, in 2010, like no one knew anything. Like we thought GTO was to always have a polarized 3-bet range. We thought that was like the game solved. Oh yeah, you just 3-bet ace-5 suited and aces and then flat king 10. That's it, solved.
That's it.
And for some reason, I think when the solvers came along, they were like, you guys are talking absolute shit. Like all of you alleged crushers have just been speaking shit for like the last 15 years of the game. We have such a revolution. And it's amazing.
Scary.
And it's just going to continue that way now. It's just going to keep going exponentially, this knowledge. So where do you... So you mentioned this year was the year that you looked yourself in the mirror and you said, I'm going to make this now. What parts of your game have improved? Like what things, technically, do you now understand that you didn't at the start of the year that constitute progress on that path?
Yeah, I mean, the big things were for us were blind versus blind play. I was just far too loose and spewy when I came to start with, and that comes from MPTs, I think, where you have to defend your blinds wider and things like that. 3-betting was a huge area where I was just completely lost in the woods, and for a start was too tight. Second of all, was always 3-betting polar, and I didn't really know how to proceed with that. And then C-betting we dealt with recently, which I'm really feeling a lot stronger in. But largely, I think it's that you've communicated the core of strategic concepts for me. I don't think it's, if this makes sense, it's not that you've necessarily filled in the blanks on the peripherals. It's that you've addressed the fallacies in the core of my thinking. And once you've corrected those, your gaming brain can just proceed along the correct path. And I think that's the most valuable thing for me.
I think that's a great way to put it. And that's what I try to do with all of my students is I say to them, right, well, you have all these beliefs X, Y, and Z, and I could argue and say not X, not Y, and not Z, but that wouldn't show you why you have them in the first place. So what I want to always do with people is say, only reason you have these weird beliefs that are just totally irrational, like the only reason you want to bet because you don't want to be uncomfortable on the next street, is that you lack the core to understand that uncomfortable is not a thing when you understand game theory. There's no such thing as being uncomfortable because you play your range, and if you don't know what a villain's doing, you survive anyway. So all these beliefs, like, all kind of like fallacies in poker originate from not having a GTO core. Like, there are two types of mistakes I get, right? And I'd say maybe, and two types of players. So there's students who come to me for coaching who learned the game years ago, before the GTO revolution, and hence all their habits are based on like the Polar Times of 2010, or the Bet for Information times of 2006, or maybe even the Doyle Brunson times of Super System if they started even before that. And all these guys, whether they're newer or older to the game, all have the same mistake, that they don't understand anything about game theory because they have survived just thinking exploitatively. He's doing that, I do this. He's doing that, I do this. They understand how to beat a random periphery strategy that's miles away from game theory optimal, and they don't understand how to not play one of those strategies themselves. And because of that, they fail. And then my job with them is to reshape them into someone that understands GTO. And that, honestly, is like taking a soft flannel and trying to get like horrible burnt old meat off of like a pan that's been in a cupboard for 2 weeks. That's what it's like.
I can imagine, man. I can imagine.
With a dry flannel or something. And you can do it eventually, but it takes a lot of nitty gritty and erasing and rewriting, and it's just that's why they need coaching. Then, interestingly, there's another type of student, which is the guy that's learned the game post GTO revolution, and his problem is that all he knows is GTO, and he can't actually access the he's doing this, so I do this kind of detective work and the clue interpretation, information handling of the pre-GTO revolution. And I think that's like amazing. And when you get that magical person who can do both, that's the guy that writes you in 9 months and goes, I just won 200k this month. That's the guy that does that. There's not many of them, but the ones who they've learned the game probably around GTO or just before or just after, and they've been able to put those two things together beautifully. And that's why my coaching is always like, have the core and then move out from there.
It makes total sense, man. It makes total sense. And one thing you said there, which kind of I brought over from Magic for me and for many poker playing ex-Magic players, is this kind of thinking ingredients. I think it's just a really important concept. Like, it's all in Magic and poker and games, in life, you need complex things can't be black and white all the time. And a problem I see in poker players all the time is, well, I always do this because this happens. It's like, well, you can't always do anything. I mean, does what I'm saying make sense to you? Like, the world is not black and white. It's in scales, it's ingredients, it's on slopes. And it's finding out where on the slope you are. It's not like in Magic, you would say some cards are like queens and some cards are like pawns, okay? But the queen isn't always a queen and pawn isn't always a pawn. Sometimes the pawn's a rook. You need to work out when, and that's where the edge is.
It's a bit like in chess as well, where a pawn can be the most powerful game-winning piece when it's in the right position with the right tempo,
exactly,
etc., etc. So all these games, I agree, like they are very much in this kind of like it's almost like orbits of a planet, and there's just so many of them all close to each other, and you just move, gradably, subtly from one to another, and you have to figure out that you've moved, and that's like just knowing where you are just kind of shows you where to go a lot of the time. So poker's very much like that, and people don't get it because like I could talk about poker fallacies all day, and one of the books I'm going to write next is going to be called Why You Don't Win at Poker, and it's just basically going to be all the mistakes that, like, why are there like 99 losing, aspiring, hard-working regs for every one successful reg? That book is going to try and answer that question, right? So that's going to be the next one on the forefront of my writing career. And it's going to very much address fallacies such as, oh, you just don't do this. You just always bet a flush draw, or you just have to do this, and it's like stupid imprints such as I checked twice, so now I can't rep anything. Like, what the hell is that? I checked twice, so now I can't rep anything. Rep a thin value hand that you checked twice. Like, rep the hand you just rivered on the river, like rivered on the river. But yeah, you get the point.
No, I know what you mean. Like the reason for that a lot of the time is people learn with heuristics.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, heuristics just a rule of thumb, something that's right, let's say 80 or 90% of the time. In Magic, it happens all the time. The game is so big and complex that you must learn heuristics. Life is so big and complex that you must learn heuristics.
Yeah.
Don't go near the water. That is very valuable to you. Getting edge and succeeding in life and succeeding in games is about recognizing when the heuristic doesn't fit this time.
Yeah, that's really good. And also not buying outdated or heuristics that sound good that are actually just nonsense. There's a lot of that in poker as well. I think in Magic, because it's a more tight-knit kind of like niche community than poker, it attracts less mainstream nonsense and folly, if you like, that in poker you often just get rules like that are just utter bullshit, and people follow them and use them all the time, and stuff like, well, he's probably repping the ace, so I'm going to do X. Like, that is the worst thing I've ever heard. Like, he's probably having this thought that's trying to do this thing that has nothing to do with what his cards actually might be, or what my range is, or it's just crazy. Yet you get millions of people buying into it because it sounds like a good rule of thumb, like the one, like don't go near the water. It sounds as intuitively believable as that. And that's the problem with this game, that if you aren't extremely thorough and logical and meticulous, then your only way of even trying to pretend to survive in poker is to grab onto bad rules and use them. So that's what most people are doing, but don't realize that they're doing, and that's one of the reasons why you're not winning.
Right. And do you think that that's a hangover? That's just a natural human thing. Like, you ask the village elder something and they give you advice, and it's like, yeah, that probably makes sense. But in the modern world where actual logic rules, then that's bullshit, really. Do you think it's just a hangover from that?
I think so, but I think even in the modern world, I don't know that. Like, I think it's quite a rosy picture to say that logic rules. I think we like to believe it does.
Well, no, in poker it does, but not in the world, right?
No. Oh, in a world where logic rules, right? I'm with you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think, it's like we don't grow up in poker, and all of the subconscious processes and habits that we evolve and that we learn in early childhood and things like that are the strongest things. They're like the really bad ingrained food on the pan that you can't get rid of. And unfortunately, those are intuitive in life and just normally lead to just contradiction and confusion when used in poker. And that's a big problem. So I think the village elder thing is very true as well. I think, honestly, I've never done this, but I think if in a coaching lesson I was to say to some of my newer students, well, you should always check here, because if he knows what you have, he's going to take all your money. So you must always deceive villain at every point and do the opposite of what you think you should do. Then he doesn't know what you're doing. I could say some absurdity like that, and the student would be like, wow. Because it's come from the guy that they've just paid. So there's a lot of that going on in poker, and there's a lot of training materials that are outdated. There's a lot of bad coaches. There's a lot of good coaches as well these days. A scary number, but there's a lot of bad coaches and bad information as well. And that's a good thing, because it keeps the regs making the same mistakes over and over again and feeling justified in doing so. But it's a bad thing in that for people like us who want to further, who are like the more, well, I consider myself one of the more like poker scientists, if you like, who wants to further truth in the game. It's quite a roadblock to that. Exactly. It's probably a bit like, the more, let's say, the church in the 13 and 1400s just refuting all knowledge with no explanation, or just refusing all knowledge, I should say. It's a bit like that, and you still get that in poker today. A lot of people just sort of clinging on to old, sayings and things like that. It's weird.
And it's one of the reasons, I love poker, because facts matter, the truth matters, and human superstition or heuristics are mostly bullshit. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons I like poker, because you can't hide from the truth. Sure. It's so intellectually honest. You can't hide from the fact that you suck. Your results say you suck. And that's it. I mean, people in your local casino can hide from it because they don't have big sample sizes. But the people playing 10 and L Zoom can't. you know?
Yeah, they will try to, though. They'll still try to blame variance or blame rake or say that the games are these days unbeatable or that it's a rake trap. It's not a rake trap because I've taught people how to get out of 10NL for years and I still do. Yes, it's getting harder, but people are getting better as well, so you can still get out of these stakes. But I think people will always find excuses in poker, and people like to think that they are better than they are and things like that. And until you really acknowledge where you're at, like, it's very difficult to make progress, and I always say that to students. But fortunately these days, you know, like, anyone that's seriously listening to this podcast has probably already reached that point where they know where they are and they're kind of honest about it. But if you're listening to this and you haven't, be honest with yourself. That's the fastest way to improve.
Totally. Just keep telling yourself you suck. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, you've got to look yourself in the mirror, guys. You've got to really be relentlessly process-driven and relentlessly self-analyzing, and then you won't suck. You'll be fine.
Absolutely. It's a difficult thing to not get emotional about your own mistakes as well, to actually say, that's good, I found that mistake and now I can learn from it. I do that in bridge. I'll play a hand terribly and I'll be so disgusted with myself that my reaction is flight. It's just to sweep it under the rug and never look at it again. Then I'll make the same mistake next week. And I know it's wrong. Why am I doing that in bridge? Because I've not learned how to have that healthy habit yet in bridge like I have in poker. You'd think it would carry over, but for some reason it doesn't.
Right.
And most poker players need to do that.
Do you think... would you be interested in, developing that skill in bridge? What's holding you back?
I think it's the fact that I use bridge as a recreational outlet for fun, and it's something I do with my girlfriend a lot. And the idea of studying yet another thing, like, is kind of... I'm a very studious person. Like, I'm very studious. Like, I read books about, like, physics and, like, math and stuff like that for fun in my spare time, and because I want to, like, build my brain into, like, this more optimal brain or whatever. Like, it's kind of, like, ridiculously geeky, man, you know? But for some reason in, like, bridge and, like, things that are fun to us, we don't have that same, like, I am the student, I will learn objectively, I will completely assess everything, like we do in like, school or university. Like, not many people are deluded about their ability in university. Your grades tell you, you know? But in poker we are, because I am in bridge because it's a recreational outlet, and a lot of the time, because we use poker for fun or to relax or to make us happy or to make endorphins flow or whatever, I think it can really stop us being objective and learning, like, for sure. And that's another psychological problem that learners have.
That's an interesting point, man. I think there's I couldn't have said it better. When you do something that is downtime to you, then it's really hard to be optimal at it. It's really hard.
Definitely. Right, man, I'm going to wrap up there. It's been a really good conversation. I think we made a decent choice by, like, not having a script, because we managed to get into a lot of hopefully interesting meta poker topics for you guys there. Yeah,
guys, thanks very much indeed, Peter. Appreciate it, and would love to be on in the future. Take care.
Yeah, I'll have you back on at some point again, Niall. Thanks very much for coming on, man. Okay, guys. So you can see on your screen there with the new graphic that my books are still on sale. The new one, Why You Don't Win at Poker, is going to be in the pipeline very soon. Hopefully done by the end of the year, but I'll keep you guys posted on that through more regular podcasts. Grinder's Manual is the one on the right there. If you're watching on YouTube, is the kind of Bible to No Limit Hold'em Online 6 Max, and it's available to buy at carrotcorner.com, the website there. If you've got any questions, comments about the podcast, you want to be on the podcast, you think you make an interesting guest, you want coaching, you name it, get in touch. Admin at carrotcorner.com is my email address, and I'd love to hear from you guys. And until I hear from you or you watch another podcast, I hope you can use this material to get better at this difficult game, and hopefully this stuff helps you have the right attitude to how to learn and be a success in this game, which is what I want for you guys. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now, guys.